I'm Cam. I'm a camera operator, videographer, whatever you want to call me, and I shoot a whole lot of different things. And one thing I shoot occasionally is weddings. And I thought it would be a cool topic as somebody that has a bit of experience in the industry to talk about predatory wedding companies. I'm basically going to expose some companies I've seen, because if you're a bride and you are looking at wedding videography and wedding photography, it's really overwhelming. So let's break it down for you. And this is just insider information for free. This is city dependent, of course, but one thing off the bat is I will say prices. You're probably going to spend more than you think you're going to spend on wedding video and wedding photo. Like with anything, you kind of get what you pay for. See, I had a relative that hired one of these predatory wedding companies, and they ended up just completely losing their footage. It kind of inspired this video because I've seen a lot of those companies. I used to work for one of those companies. I'm going to use example numbers because I don't have specific numbers because it's going to vary state to state. First, let's talk about what you should spend on a wedding videographer. I'm not too in tune with wedding photography rates because I don't do photography, but I will say in videography terms. Typically, I would say this is dependent on your city, but the lowest you'll see is about $2,500, and the highest you'll see is up to $10,000, if not more, if they're doing something specialized. Like once you're getting to that 10,000 range, typically that person's doing something really specialized, like maybe they're doing documentary films where they need multiple crew members, or maybe they come and do interviews separately from the wedding date itself. Or they offer all sorts of services. Or I've also seen in that specialized category people that bring film cameras and they're shooting on film, and then they have to get the film developed, and they do like really niche products. So probably the general gamut, dependent on what city you live in, but the general gamut is probably it starts at around $2,500 and moves upward in that scale. And then the people on the upper end of this are doing specialized kind of stuff, which is perfectly fine to pay for, but they're going to provide a superior, more interesting, and more specialized service. The stuff in between is kind of like somewhere in between all of that, of course. If you are hiring something in the under part of that 2,500 range, either you got extremely lucky that it's somebody building their portfolio and they're kind of like lowballing everybody else to build up their portfolio, or they're just getting started, etc., etc. You might find somebody for a lower price and they might be in that, but you also got to be careful because the people in the lower price, here's what they're going to do. So these predatory videography companies and just all-inclusive companies, what they do give you an all-inclusive price. What I've seen those prices going for is somewhere between $5,000 to $8,000 all-inclusive. So they'll include the photographer, the DJ, the videographer, and all of that, right? What they do is they try to keep as much, these predatory companies try to keep as much money as possible for themselves. I mean, as do any company, right? And then they hire the most bottom of the barrel, desperate freelancers to make your product. And when you're getting the most desperate bottom of the barrel freelancers, so if you think about it in freelance terms, the people who are taking the rates that these companies are offering are really desperate, or they're not that good, because the amount, they could probably 5x how much money those companies are paying them by just doing the weddings themselves, or by just finding the gigs themselves. I'm going to try to find specific numbers so that I'm not just talking out of the air, but it's really hard to find specific numbers because this happens in every city. So I'll try to speak in general terms.
All right, everybody, we're going to be doing some math. This is an example company that I found that does the all-inclusive packages, but there's plenty of them all over the country, so don't fret. There are plenty of examples for you guys to look at. So we're going to be looking at this $6,000 all-inclusive bundle. So typically an agency would take 20%, that's what they should, right? But in my experience, these companies tend to take a lot more than this, but just so that you get an example, this is what would be left over for each individual, but in my experience, what they'll do is just pay everybody super little money, take as much margin as possible, and then whatever's left over, we're not counting for editing or multiple shooters. A lot of times they'll have two shooters, so they'll pay everybody $500. You're gonna get a really bad product because nobody really cares when they're getting paid these bottom of the barrel rates, and you could go and charge for a wedding that you personally you could go make double, triple, quadruple that if the wedding was yours and you weren't going through an agency. So you are getting really bad freelancers and a really bad product for the most part.
There was this one specific company that was one of these predatory kind of video farms, and I would edit videos for them when I was in college. And I would edit a 30-minute documentary, a 30-minute documentary, a 5-minute highlight, and I think like a little social media type clip for $150. Like, if you're not in video, you don't understand how awful that's just an awful rate. But when I was in college, I was happy to get paid at all. So I would churn out these wedding edits. But looking back, like I feel really bad for those brides because they got an awful product. I was not very good, and it's cool that I had the opportunity to even do that because obviously I was not very good. The edits that these brides were getting were just awful because, and this company was like they had a building and they had like all this fancy stuff, and you kind of walk in there and they're like, and you think that you're getting a premium product, but then you're just having like me editing it, my college self editing it, and I'm probably not doing a very good job at all, and I'm kind of just like reusing certain segments and then putting it into the social media cut because I'm like lazy and inexperienced. On paper, you're paying for a $2,500 wedding through these wedding companies. They're then offering the shooters that they actually send, because they're not going themselves, they're sending random freelancers. Like when you're working with one of those companies where it's not like the person you're working for or the person you're talking to is kind of like a salesperson, the freelancers are contractors. They're random people. They're random contractors. So they are giving those contractors like the most low barrel, bottom of the floor rates that you could possibly imagine. And so the product that you're going to get is you're probably going to get somebody inexperienced, lazy, or just like they're just not very good. And when instead of doing these predatory companies, you should try to find work directly with video people that know what they're doing than working with these big conglomerates. Trust me, if you are looking for wedding stuff right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about because I'm sure you've seen these companies. That goes the same with the photographer and the DJ and everything. They offer low bottom of the barrel rates to these contractors. The contractors will take it because they're hungry, and you're going to get a worse product than you would if you hired these people individually. And you might think, hey, I'm getting this amazing deal with a DJ and everything, and maybe on paper you're getting a deal because you're not paying each person individually, but you're going to get a way worse product. I'm speaking from the behind the scenes part of it. And yeah, it's just there's a lot of these companies, and they're really big conglomerates, and they're kind of all over the country. And sometimes there's some localized kind of conglomerates like that, but if you're looking for wedding stuff for yourself, I would definitely recommend trying to find specific local businesses and local freelancers that you could work direct than going through one of these companies. It's just they're going to try to keep as much at the top. You're going to get a worse product. You're going to get a freelancer that doesn't really care because they're getting bottom of the floor rates. So they don't really care that much about your shoot or being there on time and all these little intricacies. And there's a chance you might get lucky and the company will be good and your footage will turn out good, but I really just recommend you go direct to quality and reputable people than try to go through these conglomerates.